Hey everyone, thank you for joining me on this fine day, but whenever you choose to listen or watch, morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime, late at night, it doesn't matter. I appreciate the likes, the looks, the listens, and of course, I'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe notification bell and the like button on my YouTube channel, Brooklyn Baritone. Of course, do that if you want to. No real pressure here for the content and for my opinion on things. I'm a little bit late and behind, but it's still very hot talking about the whole Roe versus Wade decision being overturned by the Supreme Court, bringing back the power basically back to the states. So each state is going to differ based on what they feel is right in consensus of this whole abortion thing. There are some states that are a bit more stringent than others. We're going to go for a little bit more because of the hysteria behind it with what media and politicians are pushing forward. And a lot of things are not exactly how it seems. For majority of the states, they're not taking away the right or the choice for abortion. One of the most often brought about topics of why the instance of sexual assault, or people say online, you can't say the proper word, so it sounds like grape. I'm just doing that just to appease the algorithm and censors for now. Conception from sexual violence, assault, rape, consists of about 5% of all the pregnancies that's in this country here. 5% of all the pregnancies. So that leaves 95% of pregnancies are not from sexual assault. So the 95% that's left is all consensual. So that means people are willing participants in sexual relations with one another. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, the one surefire way that people can get pregnant is through sexual intercourse. Now, it's kind of mind-boggling. I get it that people want that choice to have sexual intercourse, but the 95% of pregnancies that happen, you made a cognizant decision to do the one thing that's necessary to be pregnant. The one thing. Without any kind of scientific or medical intervention, you're doing that thing to get pregnant. And then when you get pregnant, surprise. Why are you surprised? Men get angry at women. How can you do this to me? Women get angry at men. How can you do this to me? Wasn't planned. Well, you know what? It's very easy to want to do everything that you want and then not really think of the consequences. But there's some consequences that you have to consider. And it's real easy just to say, then don't have sex. At the same time, it's simple, but it's difficult. Why is that? Well, because especially at this stage in the game, in this year, in this country is super hyper-sexualized. Everywhere you turn, there's something sexual, suggestive, and not even just suggestive. It's many things that's just blasting you right in your face. About sex. Everything's about sex, about looking a certain way, looking alluring, thinking of certain things. The lyrics to all a good amount of the songs that we hear, the images, just the images alone. People often take for granted how we react to sights and sounds when we have just a kind of looseness that's involved. We have the irresponsibility that's involved. We have people who lack accountability. You don't want to have a child, then you know what? Then hold off from having sex. It's really that simple. It's as difficult as that may be. And I'm not standing up with my soapbox. I'm definitely not doing that. Not by a long shot. You have to watch out for, look out for children to build them up in a proper environment. Then when they become adolescents and teenagers and then in young adulthood, and that's where they should be actually planting the seed, not into a fertile ground to make a child. No, you're planting the seeds for your own fruition, building yourself up. Because people don't understand, too, the flip side is that abortions really can damage a woman's ability to be pregnant in the future. You're doing some things inside of your lady parts that can very be critical in whether you can bear children healthily. That's another flip side that people aren't talking about. And a lot of people who have had abortions, they've gone through that. It is traumatic. People who have regrets afterwards. There's a lot of people who have regrets afterwards. And these are the things that people are not talking about, unfortunately. And this is what needs to be put out there, not just the right to do it, but the after effects, the consequences. And we're not talking about consequences for anything. We just want to be able to do stuff for the sake of doing it. I'm not talking about sexual violation. I'm not talking about for a medical reason where it's saving the life of the mother. Well, I'm not talking about those. I'm not going to talk about the 5% and probably less of what happens. I'm not really against taking away the rights of people because I have to follow Elohim. Even though he has consequences of our actions, guess what? He gives us free will. We have to remember, a lot of people who are Christians, I get where you're coming from, but the Father gives us free will. We could do whatever we want, but then there's consequences for our actions. We have to remember that. We have to remember, again, these are lives that we're playing with. These are lives that we are considering, worthless because we have desires to do what we want to do. Anyways, I don't want to ramble on too long. I just want to talk about those things right there. If you want to get more of my content and check out my merchandise, please go to my website at brooklynbaritone.com. You could also catch more of my video content on my YouTube channel, Brooklyn Baritone. I am also on LinkedIn under Corey Ashley. You could find the audio versions of these podcasts on Google Play, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music on the podcast, and Apple iTunes Podcasts. I also air 4 times a week on local Brooklyn cable television, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12 a.m. and at 2 p.m. That's on Verizon, Optimum, RCN, and Spectrum. Thank you guys for listening. Walk good. I'm out. You'll hear more from me in the future.